The Civil War in the United States began in 1861, after decades of simmering tensions between northern and southern states over slavery, states' rights and westward expansion. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 caused 7 southern states to secede and form the Confederate States of America. 4 more states soon joined them. The war between the states, as the Civil War was also known, ended in Confederate surrender in 1865. The conflict was the costliest and deadliest war ever fought on American soil, with some 620,000 of 2.4 million soldiers killed, millions more injured and much of the South left in ruin. Causes of the Civil War. In the mid-19th century, while the United States was experiencing an era of tremendous growth, a fundamental economic difference existed between the country's northern and southern regions. In the North, manufacturing and industry was well established, and agriculture was mostly limited to small-scale farms, while the South's economy was based on a system of large-scale farming that depended on the labor of black enslaved people to grow certain crops, especially cotton and tobacco. Growing abolitionist sentiment in the North after the 1830s and Northern opposition to slavery's extension into the new Western territories led many Southerners to fear that the existence of slavery in America and thus the backbone of their economy was in danger. In 1854, the U.S. Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which essentially opened all new territories to slavery by asserting the rule of popular sovereignty over congressional edict. Pro- and anti-slavery forces struggled violently in bleeding Kansas, while opposition to the act in the North led to the formation of the Republican Party, a new political entity based on the principle of opposing slavery's extension into the Western territories. After the Supreme Court's ruling in the Dred Scott case, 1857, confirmed the legality of slavery in the territories, the abolitionist John Brown's raid at Harper's Ferry in 1859 convinced more and more Southerners that their northern neighbors were bent on the destruction of the peculiar institution that sustained them. Abraham Lincoln's election in November 1860 was the final straw, and within 3 months 7 southern states, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana and Texas had seceded from the United States. Outbreak of the Civil War, 1861. The outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861 marked a defining moment in United States history, with far-reaching consequences that would shape the nation for generations to come. This complex and multifaceted conflict can be attributed to a myriad of factors, including economic, social, and political tensions, as well as deeply rooted issues of slavery and state sovereignty. Economically, the North and the South had developed contrasting systems. The North had rapidly industrialized, leading to an economy based on manufacturing and commerce. In contrast, the South's economy was primarily agrarian, relying heavily on the labor-intensive cultivation of cotton, tobacco, and other cash crops. This economic divide created tensions over issues such as tariffs, trade policies, and the balance of power between the two regions. Socially, the North and the South had differing views on slavery. While the North had largely moved toward abolition and viewed slavery as morally reprehensible, the South defended it as essential to its way of life and economy. This fundamental disagreement over the institution of slavery was a major catalyst for the outbreak of the Civil War. The tensions between pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions had been escalating for decades, with events like the Missouri Compromise and the Dred Scott decision further deepening the divide. Politically, the issue of slavery had become a contentious point of contention within the federal government. The Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850 had temporarily alleviated tensions by maintaining a balance of slave and free states in the Union. However, the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854, which allowed for popular sovereignty in determining a state's stance on slavery, reignited conflicts over the expansion of slavery into new territories. The 1860 presidential election was a turning point. Abraham Lincoln, a Republican who opposed the expansion of slavery but did not advocate for its immediate abolition, was elected as President of the United States. His election led to a wave of secessionist movements in the southern states, as they believed that their interests and way of life were under threat. South Carolina was the first state to secede in December 1860, followed by several others, forming the Confederate States of America. The spark that ignited open hostilities came at Fort Sumter in April 1861 when Confederate forces fired on the Federal garrison stationed there. This marked the beginning of the American Civil War, a conflict that would last for 4 long and devastating years. The Civil War saw a series of battles, campaigns, and strategies employed by both sides. The Union, led by President Lincoln, was determined to preserve the Union and ultimately eradicate slavery, while the Confederacy, under figures like General Robert E. Lee, fought for its independence and the continued existence of the institution of slavery. The war brought tremendous suffering, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians losing their lives. The outcome of the Civil War was a Union victory in 1865, leading to the abolition of slavery through the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. However, the scars of the war would linger for generations, as the nation grappled with issues of civil rights, Reconstruction, and the process of healing a divided country.